Next, we're speaking to Ashford Borough Council about Fortis House. Thank you very much, Tracy, for joining us today. If you could introduce yourself, that'd be fantastic.
Hi, I'm Tracy Kearney. I'm the Chief Executive of Ashford Borough Council. Have been there as Chief Exec for about the last 9 years.
Today, we're going to be talking about Fortis House, a project that you've recently completed in Ashford. Could you give us a quick overview of the project?
As Ashford Borough Council, we've always been a council that's wanted to trial innovation and creativity. Part of our borough plan is that we're a green pioneer, and climate change is really important to us. There is a huge housing crisis on at the moment, and we need to deliver as much affordable housing as we possibly can. This site is an old brownfield car park site. It is very close to the town centre. It's very close to GP surgeries, bus services, all those sorts of community type facilities that people will need where they're in to move on accommodation from temporary housing. It's in the floodplain, so it is built on stilts, and a lot of flood attenuation work was carried out to the site to make it suitable for construction and to prevent further flooding of the site. What it's really all about is local authorities taking that innovative approach. And absolutely, if we don't do that innovation and trying different methods of construction, there's very few people out there that will do this work. So it takes courage of members to think this is the right thing to do. And as I say, it's very easy to be able to say no, but it's also a very big challenge to say yes.
It's a brownfield site. It was an underutilised car park in a flood zone. So you're starting with layers and layers of complexity. And then you decided to adopt NMC and modular as well, because, that just wasn't enough. Or was that part of the solution to those challenges?
I think it was part of the solution to the challenges, to be honest. I think if we were doing traditional construction, we'd be thinking very differently, and probably not even considering this as an appropriate site for development.
Wouldn't have taken it forward then, potentially. You would have had to rule that out.
Absolutely. I don't believe that our members would have taken through a traditional construction development on this site. That isn't to say that modern method construction is only used for difficult sites, because it shouldn't be. But I just wanted to sort of say that on a difficult site like this, it was perhaps an easier decision for members to take. And if it can work on a site like this, it probably can work anywhere.
Absolutely. So I understand the scheme is 23 units of move-on accommodation?
Yeah, that's right. It's 23 units, of which we have 1 beds, 2 beds and 3 beds. And what I would also say is the scheme is 3-storey, so it has a lift. So absolutely helpful in terms of good access. But it also has 3 specially adapted disabled units within the scheme as well. So it's a really good mix of homes that we've been able to provide within the scheme.
Excellent. We saw the project together. It was the first time I was seeing the project. I was certainly impressed by the quality of the sustainability, the energy efficiency, the level of insulation, triple glazing, lots of technology there to support that. So solar panels, air source heat pumps with MVHR. What motivated you to take it to such a high energy performance specification?
Well, our aspiration was to be zero carbon, and our aspiration was to reduce energy bills for those people that were going to be living in that accommodation. I think one of the most volatile costs for any young family, any individual, is the cost of energy at the moment. And the opportunity to reduce energy bills down to such a low level through using modern methods of construction, for me, is one of the best outcomes that you can achieve. And it's really good to see what excellent practice can do and make a difference to people's lives.
It's quite a trailblazing project for you.
Absolutely, it is.
Tracy, can you tell me a little bit more about temporary accommodation in your borough and the challenges that you have?
I have in the region of 250 people in homeless accommodation every night, and that is not acceptable. I hate the thought of young families having to live in bed and breakfast accommodation, having to sit there of an evening with their children trying to do their homework. Learning to live in effectively one room is just not good for any household, any family. So the more we can do of this type of accommodation, the quicker we can build it. And we haven't talked about speed of delivery, but these units came to site in February of this year, and we're talking about moving people in the next week.
The scheme, I understand, cost about £7.4 million. Can you give me a breakdown of how you funded that?
Yes, so it is an expensive scheme. That's about £320,000 a home. it's not the cheapest way, but it's all the added value that makes it worthwhile. And that's why I say it can be very easy to say no to a scheme like this. The costs are expensive, but the borrowing is done through the housing revenue account. That is funded on the borrowing costs to the council over a substantial number of years. We have taken grant from Homes England, which has helped enormously to make that a viable project. I think if we hadn't have had Homes England grant, then it might have been a more difficult decision for us to make.
And that came from our affordable housing programme, I understand.
Yes, it did.
Fantastic. Despite the perhaps slightly higher cost per home of this delivery solution and reflecting the challenging context, will the project be saving you money against your temporary accommodation costs?
Oh, without a doubt. That's 23 reduced costs in temporary accommodation every night. So, yeah, without a doubt. If I could have 3 or 4 more of these schemes, then I feel a lot more comfortable. But it's finding the right sites, it's getting through the planning process, all of which takes time. But actually the construction, when it comes to site, is quick and speedy. I've been to the factory at Peterborough, the Z-Pods factory. It's an amazing place.
They support the Prisoners Building Homes programme, don't they?
Yeah, it is an amazing programme that they are really giving prisoners in the local area some real life skills and qualifications as a result of this project. And when they come out of prison, and I think they use it in the last year of their sentence, when they come out of prison, they have some cash in their hand, they have a qualification, and they can get work because they're trained and qualified in the type of construction that they need in terms of this factory. As I say, it's not full of robots, it's quite labour intensive.
And I understand some of the money goes back to victims support as well. So there's a lot of outcomes that are fantastic there.
And the reoffending rate of these prisoners is 0. So it's a really effective service for the judicial system.
Fantastic.
So it's a very nice scheme. These are mortgageable properties. I just need to emphasise that there's no compromise on the quality because they're a modern method of construction.
Indeed, they have a BOPAS accreditation, don't they? So it enables them to get that mortgage.
Yes, they do. We hopefully won't be selling any of those properties, but they are a good quality product.
Some of the spaces were double height as well, which was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives them a really nice feel inside. Some of the ceiling heights are quite different in the top floor flats, and they look very attractive. Nice design.
Interesting. Can you talk a little bit about any lessons learned?
We need to think about the costs of what we've done and the cost of the scheme. We need to work on the lessons learned to see how we could have done things differently and learn from other people. If our building control officers were running the scheme, they've never done an MMC construction site like this before. Is that the right thing to do? Should we have specialist building control officers that understand the concept so it's not learning from the beginning each time a scheme like this comes forward? Just the project management generally, because the timings are so different.
A lot of the work's done in the factory, so you've got to go see the factory, I think, in terms of doing your inspections and doing your on-site inspections as well.
These were manufactured in Peterborough and my building control officers are Ashford. We've got to trust each other, so we don't need to travel all the way up to Peterborough to see in the factory somebody else is able to relay that information to our building control officers with the same responsibilities and accountability. So it's those kind of lessons I think that need to be ironed out, Ed. And I think perhaps Homes England have a real role to help with this and play in how do we see modern methods of construction slightly differently from normal construction methods, and how do we make that journey that much easier for everybody who's hopefully taking on modern methods of construction in their authorities. This is the start of, I believe, a journey that we've got to stick with and go forward with.
Fantastic. And any other final remarks from you? Anything else you would like to mention?
Well, the one thing I'd just say is that I think it's an excellent scheme. I think that it's something that everybody should consider when they're looking at opportunities for construction in the affordable housing sector. It really makes a difference. I think that my biggest struggle would be, and it's a nice struggle to have, to make sure that when people move on from this accommodation, they know that they've got to budget for an energy bill, because their energy bills here are going to be so low that when they move on into more permanent accommodation, 2-3 bedroom houses, if that's possible, that they're potentially going to have an energy bill that they won't be used to. Nice challenge to have.
A real problem as you manage that transition, but that also speaks to the testament to the quality of this scheme and what Ashford achieves. Thank you very much for your time and for joining us today.
So, thank you. Thank you, Ed. Take care.